Developing learning programs is an important skill that's done in RTOs on a regular basis. And it might be the case that you get a chance to write some, I hope so, because we're about to show you an example of how to put together a learning program so that you can go and practice one yourself. And you're going to get a practice opportunity very, very soon. But firstly, let's have a look at an example. So what we've got here is we've got basically all the information, all the documentation from a learning program written down. It takes about 4 pages, so there's quite a lot of information, but basically it's a little bit like a summary. We don't want to put down a lot of detail here. We want to put down enough information so that somebody can look at this learning program and understand why it was designed the way it was, who it's for, and what the specifics are, so that you can take it away and develop specific session plans and deliver terrific training for the client. In this case here, we've got a client of Julia Robotham, and Julia is the state manager for an organisation, and she's requested that we help design a learning program in advanced complaint handling. Now, it could be the case that we've developed this whole program just for Julia. It could be that we already had this type of program in existence, but we're developing it and modifying it and changing it for Julia's purposes. So we may have already had access to a lot of this information in the past. We may already have session plans for this type of learning program, or it might be something brand new. But what you're going to see here is it's a creative process. You can't get the answers in how to develop a learning program from a book. You can't just look it up, because each client and each situation is different. So you need to be creative in the way you put it together. The standards in this case, it's a unit of competency. The unit of competency is BSB CMM 301, Process Customer Complaints. So if you're developing a learning program for one or more units of competency or modules from accredited courses, make sure you list the unit code or module code and the name, the unit title here. Unit code, unit title, we expect to see both those things here if the learning program is developed on the basis of a unit or one or more units of competency or modules from an accredited course. Who's the target group? The target group here are the staff members of the administration and customer relations teams, who are the first point of contact for customers and are the initial receivers of customer complaints. We've already talked about the importance of identifying your cohort, of identifying who your clients are, identifying the target market. That's what we're doing here. Who is that target group? Summarise them. You don't need a lot of detail, but you need to know who they are so you can tailor the sessions to their benefit. The entry requirements: minimum of 6 months in customer relations roles and demonstrate a strong knowledge of products and services. Usually there are some types of entry requirements involved for people to enter a learning program. It could be the fact that their employment situation, they need to be working for an organisation in order to be able to access that training, or it could be a minimum level of language literacy and numeracy perhaps. But use your creativity, look for entry requirements that might be relevant so that people who shouldn't be doing the training aren't there. Okay, when it comes to LLN requirements, it's pretty simple. We can just specify the minimum ACSF level and pick core skills of relevance to us. That's the easiest way to do it here. With the delivery method is how we're going to be delivering the content. Okay, so it's about the delivery. In this case here, we're going to use online delivery of theories and knowledge. Blended delivery of content, activities and assessment includes downloadable workbook for reference and reading offline. There'll be face-to-face workshops for practice and assessment using scenarios and role plays, on-the-job practice, coaching and third-party reviews. So we've got a brief description of the methods and activities as suggested in the margin note here. That's a good level of detail. Make sure you have some level of detail when you do learn your learning programs so that people can read this like a story and see, okay, this is how the training is going to be delivered. With respect to the specifics, the delivery mode and expected duration, it's going to be a total of 32 hours, and that 32 hours is going to be broken up into 8 hours class off-the-job component, which is classroom, 12 hours on the job, and 12 hours by the learners working by themselves, self-directed learning, perhaps online. 12 plus 12 plus 8, funnily enough, equals 32. Make sure that your maths always adds up. Okay, on to the next page of the learning program, and now we're starting to get into assessments. So what we do is we give you a whole variety of options here for the assessments. Some are class-based assessments, some are work-based or independent assessments. Given that we've identified above that the students are going to be working in some classroom situations here and off the job and self-directed situations here, non-surprisingly we've got assessments of both types that have been bolded. So we can bold our solutions. In this case, there's 5 assessments that we're looking at using for the students in this learning program. Then there's the assessment detail. And this is a brief description of when and how the assessments will occur. And what we're looking for here is we're looking for an explanation of when these bolded assessments is going to occur and how they're going to occur. In this case here, we've got written assessments to be completed formatively throughout the online delivery. The role plays and simulations will be completed during the workshops. And then we've got workplace observations and third-party reports that will be used on the job as the students work independently. Further down, we've got session plan titles. In this case here, we've got up to 5 session plans. We're planning on using all 5 here, including the workplace coaching. We've specified what's going to be covered in those sessions, and ultimately we will develop specific session plans for each of those sessions. We'll talk about that later in this cluster as to how you do that. Then we've got facilities, just some basic information about the facilities, the equipment that's going to be required for this training, and the learning resources or materials, just listing them out. Will a work health and safety risk and hazard assessment be conducted in the training location? In this case, we've ticked yes prior to the workshop by trainer. I'd suggest there should always be some strategy in place here, so you've got a yes and to when and by whom is going to be undertaking the WHS assessment. The review of the learning program. The review of the learning program prior to delivery will be coordinated with Julia, Anita and James to ensure all competencies and logistics are covered. And then there's some of the risks are noted here as to how and why that review is important and needs to be undertaken. So have a read of the example here in the learning programs that you develop. Consider how you're doing a review and consider the risks as to why you're doing the review. What are you looking for in the review? What are the problems you're trying to avoid? And then a post-implementation review. So after the learning program has actually been delivered, what are some of the things that you're going to look at? How are you going to do it? In this case here, there's lots of ideas as to how that post-implementation review is going to take place. Finally, we've got the budget. And the budget is all about identifying how much this learning program is going to cost. In this case here, we've got quite a detailed budget with lots of line items, lots of costs. Always look for the hidden costs, the ones that might not be obvious to you, but the ones that are there beneath the surface. What does it really cost to run this program? And you need this information in order to justify whether or not the learning program should take place. Is it financially viable to run this learning program the way that we're planning to? Does it make sense? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a learning program. That's pretty much how it looks. Once you've done a couple of these, they'll become pretty standard fare for you. And there might be the chance that if you're working in a registered training organisation, that you might be developing many of these over a period of time. And I wish you good luck in getting ready to launch in and have a crack yourself. Good luck with your upcoming practice. Enjoy it.